Hello everyone and welcome back to another cryptocurrency video. I am back to making videos. Yes, I was away to New York City. If you are up to date on my Twitter, go ahead and follow me for the latest up-to-date news. I visited the bull in Manhattan, New York, and I spoke to him. I spoke to him and he spoke to me, and he told me that the bull market has arrived and it is coming soon. Should we expect a major crash? Maybe, but the worst of it is over and we are now in the bull market heading into the halving year for Bitcoin. Nice pics, right? I don't know if you guys have visited New York, but if you visited New York and taken a picture with the bull, let me know in the comment section down below. New York was nice, man. I done a tour of the financial district. It was cool to learn about the history of the Federal Reserve and why the fiat currency is essentially a coin. But yeah, that was cool. In my last few videos before I went away, I was discussing the idea of Bitcoin either having a crazy rally, maybe reaching all-time highs before the halving, or essentially having a standard 20% dip back into the bull market support band. Since then, Bitcoin has rallied on like crazy because in the last few weeks, price has essentially risen from 39k all the way up to 64k and nearly at all-time highs. So why has this happened? Why is the market like this? I did explain in those videos the reasons as to why Bitcoin could be behaving like this is not only from the narratives from the Bitcoin spot ETF or the Bitcoin halving, driving speculation, driving euphoria, driving confidence into the market, but when you look at the data, it makes sense. Yeah, because if we take a look at interest rates and we compare it to last cycle, remember we only essentially have one data point for Bitcoin with regards to a tight monetary policy. You can see that in the last cycle, in mid-2019, the Fed's rate essentially peaked out in June of 2019. Yeah, and that is when the Bitcoin price topped. The first rate cut occurred in July of 2019. So 1 month before the first rate cut, Bitcoin topped in price. The first rate cut, this time around, in the same sort of tight circumstance, the first rate cut isn't expected until June of 2024. So that means 1 month before May, Bitcoin price could top out, which would essentially put the price action around here in May or so. I'd say mid-May, just to get a rough average. So Bitcoin could peak out around this time, yeah? And that's just one data point. But what is confluence with this time around? What makes me think that yes, the Bitcoin price could go higher, but we should also be wary about dips like this? It's because we are in a tight monetary policy, and this build up right here in 2019, that was a QT bull market. Just like how we have here now, this is a QT bull market. You cannot say it is not a bull market because price has essentially risen for more than 6 months in both circumstances and risen more than 3x. So if that is the case, you cannot say it is not a bull market because price has risen 3x. Some people's definitions of bull market only suggest that Bitcoin's in a bull market when it reaches all-time high, etc. But no, because by that point, the top has essentially probably already come in. Whereas if you track it from the bottom, Bitcoin has already been in the bull market for over a year or so this time around. Last time it was only 6 months. So with that being said, this is a QT bull market just like we had last cycle. And what makes me think it's a QT bull market and not nothing like this? Because this came in a QE environment where money was cheap, money was free, money was printed out of thin air, and people didn't know what to do with their money rather than to put it into risk on assets like Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. Hence why this massive 20x run is different from this 4x run. And just like how, let's say, if there is a crash or something happens, after post a tight monetary policy, once QE gets involved, yeah, that is the gains that you want. It's the 20x gains that you want, not the 3x gains. I mean, 3x gains are nice, don't get me wrong. If you're a DCA investor, that's great. But the gains that we want are these 20x bull market euphoric gains, not these QT gains, yeah? And what's the reason as to why I say that? It is because, and don't get me wrong, a 3x gain is nice. Like, I'm not saying it's not a good thing or anything, but I'd rather 20x gains in a QE environment than 3x gains in a QT environment. Because there's just so much uncertainty within the economy that anything can happen at any time. And I'm not here to discuss short-term price action, because no one knows what the market can do. I guarantee you no one knew that Bitcoin would go to 64k. That is a given. Most people might have said 48k because of the 618 Fibonacci retracement. Bitcoin has broken that with ease. It got rejected the first time and then broke it with ease, which is the first time it has happened before the halving. So there's just so many confluences as to why I do also believe that it could be this. Even though we might put in a new all-time high, we could still be following this narrative. And why is that? Let me show you the reason. So if we take a look at the ETH and Bitcoin pairing, the Ether Bitcoin pairing is essentially a good way to navigate a risk on or risk off environment for altcoins, especially for altcoins, because I know a lot of people are knee deep into altcoins right now because Bitcoin is nearing its highs. But we need to remember that altcoins only thrive once Bitcoin reaches an all-time high and they are in a QE environment. Altcoins thrive off of QE. It's like their drug, yeah? So if we take a look at past cycles, again, and I've discussed this at length before, you can see that Ethereum likes this two-punch top with a mid-cycle dip, two-punch top with a mid-cycle dip, two-punch top with a mid-cycle dip. We then have a pullback after dropping from the second top. We have a pullback into the bull market support band and then a significant drop. We have a pullback into the after the second drop, we have a downtrend, a pullback into the bull market support band, and then a drop, yeah? And the same thing is essentially occurring right now, where the Ethereum pairing goes down, pulls back into the bull market support band, and then completes its drop further. It happens every single time. You can see it here, you can see it here, and you can see it here. It happened 2 cycles ago where Ethereum just capitulated. Last cycle it capitulated, and we are now at that stage where it capitulates. So this is just one good way to view the market and say that we are on a risk off environment, and that is because of QT. Again, if we overlay this with interest rates, you can see that once QE returned, which was at this point right here, in the Ethereum Bitcoin pairing, what happened in a QE environment? Ethereum was off to the races against Bitcoin. Once we are in a tight monetary policy, yeah, once the rates start shooting up like they haven't done before, and we are at this point where rates are just going up and rates are paused, what happens? Oh, something's happened to my camera. Should be fine. Let's just give it a moment or so. But what happens when the rates soar up and pause? The Ethereum Bitcoin pairing just goes down, which just goes to show there is lesser confidence within the altcoin market because we are in QT conditions, which makes me tend to believe that we need to be aware of this mid-cycle 2019, what happened then as to what's happening now. Can it be different? Of course it can be different. No one knows what can happen, but you must remember we are in a tight monetary policy. Bitcoin can definitely go to all-time highs, and fake out all the bears and make the bears go to hospital and this and that. But then it might get to a point where it fakes out the bulls, and then Bitcoin goes on a downtrend for 6 months until the end of the year. So both scenarios could happen. They are likely to happen. Again, we don't have much data point with regards to Bitcoin, but we should be very careful with the altcoin market, because it seems as if liquidity is thriving, is going from the altcoin market into Bitcoin right now because of the narratives of the spot ETF and the pre-halving rally. Be careful, because if liquidity is flowing from altcoins into Bitcoin, which it definitely is, and I must have drawn this in my last video, and it definitely is, because the Bitcoin dominance has held its bull market support band and retested the 382 Fibonacci level and has significantly pumped. Last cycle, the Bitcoin dominance went up to the 618 ratio, which was right up here at 73%. If history repeats, Bitcoin could definitely make its way to that 60%. Once altcoins get to that, or once the liquidity from altcoins finishes going into Bitcoin at 60%, altcoins have nowhere to hide if Bitcoin then finally decides to go on a downtrend. It's all fun and games, the Bitcoin dominance going up, and your cryptocurrency, your altcoin is going up against the dollar. That's all fun and games. But if the Bitcoin dominance is going up to 60%, yes, your cryptocurrency, your altcoin can go up against the dollar. But what happens when Bitcoin reaches 60% and then decides to take a dump against its USD value? Your altcoin is going to get wrecked. And this is why I made a tweet the other day and I said we are very close to accumulating altcoins at a premium. Bitcoin dominance will top out soon. Bitcoin has now sucked out all of the liquidity from altcoins in the last year or so. What happens when Bitcoin finally goes into a downtrend? Altcoin accumulation of a lifetime. If we take a look at the Ethereum Bitcoin pairing again, this is where I would want to buy Ethereum, at these levels right here against this Bitcoin pairing. These levels right here at the bottom, at the bottom, at the bottom. Yes, the USD value has been going up in the last year or so, but it's been bleeding against Bitcoin. So what happens when Bitcoin finally takes a dump and finally goes on a downtrend? Because Bitcoin has essentially been only up since November of 22. That is well over 14 months of upwards price action. What happens if it goes on a 6-month downtrend? Your altcoins will get wrecked, but that is when it is the best time to buy altcoins. That is when I will be buying altcoins. So that's it from me today, guys. I hope you all enjoyed the video. I'll be dropping another video tomorrow providing evidence as to why I believe that Bitcoin price could reach all-time highs before the halving, if not just after the halving. But we should stay warned. Stay warned, because there's just a lot of euphoria in the market right now, but I'll go through that in tomorrow's video. If you like the video, hit that thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and if you are a fan of cryptocurrency, I have a cryptocurrency shop where you can shop cryptocurrency products. I'll leave a link in the description down below so you can get a discount off of your next purchase. Again, it's been your boy J1 General. Thank you and goodbye.